today we're going to follow your notes, staying organized, patterns and their parts, and pattern preparation. We're going to follow those notes that you have. And the first thing it talks about is staying organized. And when you're going to sew, it's a good idea to gather all of your supplies so that you know you have everything that you need so that you can get started. I have a spool of thread, I have my buttons, the size I need, I have a buckle, I have some interfacing here, which we'll talk about next week. I need a small piece of interfacing, and I have my pattern and my fabric. Patterns and their parts. As you are working on staying organized, you want to get all of your equipment and supplies ready. That way you don't get started and you can't go ahead. You want to double check your steps as you're working, and that's what we're going to go over. You want to remember that it's a good idea to press after each construction step, and if there's any fitting to be done, fit your pattern as you are working on it so that you can fit it before it's too late. Patterns and their parts. We're going to be using the McCall's pattern 6228. It's a vest. We're going to be doing vest D, and remember on the front of your pattern you have the picture of the pattern pieces, the views. You have the pattern number, which is over here. You have the size, and you also have the price on the flap. On the back, remember, you have your yardage chart, which we'll talk a little bit more about, and you have a lot of information in there. It tells you what notions to buy, and it gives you some suggested fabrics. When you open up your pattern envelope, first thing you're going to have is a guide sheet. It's going to give you all the instructions that you need to put your garment together. And we're going to take a look at your guide sheet. It gives you step-by-step information for cutting, sewing, and making the garment that you want to make. It gives you a cutting layout, and it gives you step-by-step sewing directions. And it has 3 or 4 tissue paper pattern pieces that list all of the various pattern pieces for the different views that you could make. We're doing view D. So what I did was open up the pattern and take out the pieces that I needed. Now, what you'll notice is that I did not trim them down. I just cut them out from the paper. There's 2 different thoughts on that. Some people like to cut right on the cutting line when they take out their patterns. Other people like to leave some margin paper. Either way is fine, and it works. So those are the things that you need to do. Then you need to prepare your pattern. So we've taken everything out of the envelope, we found the pattern pieces that we needed, and we folded everything up and put the rest of it back, because famous last words, you throw the pattern pieces out and there was a piece on there that you forgot to cut out and now you don't have it. So don't ever throw anything out until you are completely done. But remember that patterns can be used over and over. So you find your pattern pieces, you select them, you press them off, and when you press pattern pieces you use a dry iron on low heat to get those wrinkles out so that they're nice and smooth for you to use. And I hung those up. This is your guide sheet, and what I did here was find my cutting layout. How do I find my cutting layout? I'm doing view D, and I look to see here, this is the lining for views A through H, so they all use the same lining. Down here, this is the vest, and then over here is the directions that I need for the interfacing. So that's my guide sheet. How did I find the pattern pieces that I needed? Well, also on the guide sheet, when you're doing view C and D, it tells me right here that I need pieces 3, 4, 8, 9, and 10. Up here for the lining for the vest, I need pieces 4 and 11. And for the interfacing, I need pieces 8 and 10. What you may have noticed is that some pieces are mentioned twice. You do not get 2 pattern pieces, you have to use it 2 times. And we'll be talking about that when we lay it out. Usually what you do is lay out the main part of the pattern, so the vest, and use pieces 3, 4, 8, 9, 10. Then you cut out the lining 4 and 11, and you've used 4 once before. You take it off that fabric and put it on your lining fabric, and then you need piece 10 again and piece 8 for the interfacing. So those are the pieces that you need and the steps that you need to take. It's a good idea if you're in class working to put your name on your guide sheet and your pattern pieces so that you're ready to start. And next we'll talk about getting your fabric ready.